Sass fam, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Chrissy and I am the owner of Sugar and Spice Glitter Co. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys a technique that was covered inside of the Creators Club last month, and I'm really excited to finally be able to bring it to you guys here on YouTube. Every month in the Creators Club, I focus on certain Tumblr techniques and tutorials. So if you guys want early access to certain techniques and Tumblr tutorials that are covered inside of my mentorship group, then definitely check out the description for all of the link and information down below. I did touch a little bit more in my last video on this, so if you guys want to watch that, I will link it up here so you guys can go ahead and check it out. In today's tutorial, we are going to be learning how to create a dragon scale egg tumbler. And I'm really excited to share this tutorial with you because it was one of my most favorites and a big seller for me back when I first started making tumblers. So I hope you guys are excited for today's tutorial, and without further ado, let's just go ahead and jump right on in. To get started, first thing we're gonna do is begin by cutting out our dragon scales. Now I am in Cricut Design Space, and I'm sure you can do the same exact thing in Silhouette Studio. Okay, so first thing I did was I actually went to Etsy and I typed in dragon scale SVG, and I looked around until I found the dragon scales that I liked best. This happens to be this one right here. Once I downloaded it from Etsy, I uploaded it into Cricut Design Space and added it to my canvas. So once you add the dragon scales to your tumbler, you can size them to fit however big or small you want your scales to be. This is 11.682 by 11.673. Okay, so really quickly, this is the paper that we're going to be using to cut out our dragon scales. This is the Cricut Smart paper sticker cardstock. So when I first started making dragon scale tumblers, I was originally using regular cardstock, and I would have to paint and apply each scale one by one with Mod Podge and a paintbrush. So this is making things a whole lot easier because on the back of the cardstock it is already sticker adhesive, which makes it so much easier. Now this is also smart paper, meaning that if you have the new Cricut Maker, you can cut this out on your Cricut Maker without using a mat. You can stick this sheet directly into your Cricut Maker and it will cut it out without a mat. So let's go ahead and do that so you guys can see what it looks like. After we have turned on our maker, we're going to go ahead and click the Make It button on Cricut Design Space. Okay, we're gonna let our Cricut Design Space pull up our options, and because we are using smart material, we are going to do it without a mat. And hit continue. As you can see, we have our scales here. If you wanted to make them a little bit bigger so that it filled up the whole entire sheet, you can definitely do that. Again, remember to size your scales to the size of your tumbler. Now, once you are on this page right here, you want to go ahead and change the size of your material. So this one is 13 by 19, but the smart material we have is actually 13 by 13. So we're gonna just go ahead and change that. If you do not, your Cricut is not going to read the size of your material and it won't cut correctly. So make sure that you change the material size. After you've done that, click continue. You can see that once you've clicked continue, it changed the size automatically over here. Now it's time to set the base material, so we're going to browse all material. As you can see in the first option right here, we have cardstock smart paper, so we're gonna go ahead and click on that and then hit done. Even though it is set to cut on the smart paper sticker cardstock, when I first did this tutorial live in the Facebook group, I wanted the cut to be a little bit deeper. So we are going to actually put more pressure on our smart paper sticker cardstock. Okay, once you've put the pressure that you need, you can go right on here to your Cricut Maker and you can see that the button is flashing. So we're going to just apply our pressure and push the button. So give me a second so that I can start this up. Okay, so now the Cricut Maker is going to read the size of your material. Then you can press the play button, which is going to start the cut. This is what your cardstock should look like once it is done cutting. But here you have your scales. They're easy to pull up and they have that sticker backing, which makes it super easy to apply onto your tumblers. Okay, so now it's time to prep our tumbler. I am using a 20-ounce Oddball tumbler from Craft Haven Tumblers. There will be a link in the description down below so you can go ahead and check them out. But to prep our tumbler, I'm just going to be sanding down the base. I'm not going to be spray painting at this point in time, just going to be prepping by sanding the base and spraying that off with 91% alcohol. Okay, so we are going to begin adding our scales to our tumbler. Now, this is going to take a while. This live in the Creators Club actually took like almost 2 hours to do. So we are definitely going to be fast forwarding through this tutorial, but you're going to want to lift up your scale. Again, these do have an adhesive backing, so it is a lot faster than if you were using regular cardstock, but yeah. So you want to go ahead and take your scale. You want to make sure that you are starting at the bottom of your tumbler, and we're going to begin by going in with our first row of dragon scales. Apply the scale with the point facing down and make sure it isn't overlapping on the bottom. You want it just that tip of the scale to be right at the bottom rim of your cup. And now we are going to take our next scale and we are just going to put that right next to that first scale that we laid down. This tutorial is not one to take lightly. This does take up a lot of time and it is very repetitive and time consuming. However, I love doing dragon scale tumblers. It kind of reminds me of doing rhinestones on a tumbler because it can be sort of relaxing if you're in the right setting. Like, put on your favorite movie or your favorite show that you love to binge watch and have your scales ready and just sit down and watch your show and add your scales. It can be soothing and very relaxing and a different pace of, you know, your regular tumblers. So we're not working with any glitter at this point. It's literally just applying your scales one by one. So as you can see, I'm just making sure to line up the next scale right next to that first one that we put down with the point facing down. So you want them right up against each other. And you're just going to be doing that for each row. Okay, so we are going to quickly fast forward through this first row just so you guys can see how the first row is applied. Okay, so we are actually done with our first row of scales. Now, as you can see, there is a little bit of a big space between the first and last scale that we put, and that is where we are going to begin applying our second row of dragon scales. Now, when you are applying your dragon scales, you're going to be laying them down in a brick style. If you are a rhinestoner, then you know what I'm talking about. If not, then I'm going to show you guys what I mean. So when you are applying your next row of scales, you want to put that first scale on the second row in between those first set of scales that you put down. So we're going to be laying it down like a set of bricks, okay? You still want the point of your dragon scales to face down, and we are going to be overlapping these scales. So again, this is a very long drawn out process, so I am going to be fast forwarding through this tutorial, but I do want you guys to see the process, so definitely keep on watching all the way through. So we've already placed a couple of scales down, so I wanted to show you guys here what we have. I think we're putting on the fourth scale on the second row. So here you can see how I'm laying it down, where I have it like laying down bricks and they are going to be laying on top of the bottom row. And so that's how you're basically going to be building on top of each row, staggering your scales. Now, I do want to touch on the fact that we are working with a tumbler that is not a straight tumbler all the way through. This is a tumbler that is smaller at the bottom and the top and wider in the middle. So as we begin to lay our scales down and move up towards the center, which is the widest part of our tumbler, we will be applying more scales, and you're going to see a little bit of a wider separation of the dragon scales the closer we get to the middle of the tumbler. And then it'll begin to get tighter and tighter again as we move towards the top lip of our cup. It's magic. Here we are in the center of our cup, and we are still laying down those scales the same exact way, laying them down in a brick pattern on top of the bottom row. So as you can see, we are about an hour into this tutorial. Had you been watching this live, you probably would have been on with me for about an hour now. I'm telling you guys, yes, this is a long tumbler to create, so get ready, buckle down. You may not want to be prepared to sit down and do this in a full session, and you don't really have to. You can do some rows and call it a night and come back the next day. But yeah, we went all head in on this tutorial and it was so much fun. I think start to finish, we were live for like 2 hours, maybe even more. I don't even know, it was crazy. But here we are in the center of the cup and I am laying those scales down exactly the same way. It is so repetitive, but oh my God, look how awesome it looks already. So here you can see we are laying down a little bit more each row as we get towards the center, which is the wider part of our cup. As I mentioned earlier, is going to have a little bit more dragon scales. So yeah, here we go. We're gonna continue on and fast forward to the top of our cup because it's just the same repetitive thing over and over again. So let's go ahead and skip on forward. So when we got to the top portion of our tumbler, I ran out of scales. Yes, I did. But guess what? My Creator Club members are so amazing that they gave me the great idea to cut the scales in between on the sheet. So when you are pulling up the tumbler, the dragon scales that already cut out on your Cricut and you run out of those, you can cut out the in-between scales. So that's basically what I did. That's why you can see all the little cut up papers, which kind of slowed me down a little bit, but hey, at least I didn't have to like go and cut out a full sheet again of cardstock sticker paper, because yeah, as anywhere you can save time and material, do so. Okay, so we're saving material here by cutting out each of the center dragon scales, and we are coming up to our, I think, second to last row here. And as we get to the top of the cup, you're gonna see how I finish this off. So we're just gonna go ahead and continue to put on our dragon scales one by one. And after we're done applying all of our dragon scales, it's time to seal all of these in. So yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Okay, so this last row of scales, you can see that the top of my dragon scales are sticking above the tumbler itself. Don't worry, we are going to trim that off. So just go ahead and apply your dragon scales as normal. And then when we are done applying the last dragon scale, we're gonna just trim those off. All right, so here's what the tumbler looks like after I've applied all of the dragon scales. As you can see, we do still have those dragon scales poking above the top rim of the cup. All right, so we're gonna take a sharp scissor and we're going to begin trimming off the top of our scales. Now, this is down with an adhesive, but we haven't sealed in these scales yet. So you do want to hold on to those scales while you're trimming so that they don't pop off. If they do happen to pop off while you're trimming, no worries, you can just go ahead and stick them right back on. So now it's time to seal our tumbler using Mod Podge. You know, my favorite Mod Podge is the dishwasher safe. So we're gonna go ahead and begin by applying one even coat all over the dragon scales. Now you wanna make sure that you're applying your Mod Podge not only down from top to bottom, but you wanna make sure you're going across as well as back up towards the top. You wanna make sure that your dragon scales are completely coated and covered and sealed in. So we're gonna do this with 2 really good coats of Mod Podge. Between each coats of Mod Podge, you do want to let each coat dry. So while I was doing this tumbler live in the Creators Club, I did help speed up the process by using my heat gun. You could go ahead and use your heat gun as well, or you can just let it sit overnight. It's up to you. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to video myself spray painting my tumbler. This was also done live in the Creators Club, but it was super late at night, so I wasn't able to capture it. But one thing you do want to know after you've spray painted your tumbler is you do want to let it sit for about 5 to 10 minutes, but you want to note that you do not want your spray paint to dry all the way. The key to getting a nice good coverage while using your Chameleon pigment is to allow your spray paint to sort of dry enough to where it's tacky, but it's not completely dry. This is going to help adhere your pigment powder, and you can see just how easy this goes on while the spray paint is tacky. The Chameleon powder that I'm using is from Let's Resin, and I got this on Amazon. Now, just for reference, the amount of pigment powder that's in these pots are less than 1 gram of powder. A little bit goes a really long way. You can actually do several tumblers with less than 1 gram, which is amazing. So to apply my powders, I am just using a fluffy makeup brush, and I'm just putting the tip of my brush into that powder and dabbing it onto the tumbler. So you don't want to run your brush along the base of your cup, because if you remember, our spray paint is still a little bit tacky and you don't want to have to move that spray paint around. So you're going to just lightly tap that powder into your dragon scale tumbler, and you can see just how easily that pigment goes on. Make sure to also cover the bottom of your tumbler, as well as once you are done dusting on that powder all over, you can then run your brush from the bottom to the top to make sure that any scales from the underneath the scales also get covered. Once you're done applying your pigment powder, you do want to let everything sit on the cup for about 24 hours. And after you've let your spray paint fully dry and the pigment stay on there for about 24 hours, you do want to go in and seal all that in with your Krylon clear sealer. After that is fully dry, then we can go in with our first coats of resin. So I have whipped up 30 mLs of Counterculture's Fast Set, and I'm going to be spreading that all over the base of my cup nice and even. After I've spread that over, I'm going to let that sit and even out. We're going to go ahead and torch for any bubbles. We're going to let that cure, and then we are going to be going in with a second coat of resin, and we're going to let that fully cure just so that we have a nice, even, and smooth base for our decal. So this is what our tumbler looks like so far after 2 good coats of resin. You can see we have a nice smooth base, and I just love this color shift. So now that we have a smooth base, we can go ahead and start spray painting the area where we are going to be laying down for our vinyl. Now I'm going to be doing a spray painting that we are going to be distressing, so I'm going to be layering some spray paints, and we're going to begin with a flat black spray paint. I'm going to just spritz that on the front side of the tumbler. Once that is dry, we're going to go ahead and layer on top of that with a dark purple in the same exact area. And then after that coat has dried, we're going to just go on top of that with white. Now what this is going to do is this is going to give us a worn, kind of distressed look. Thought that would be perfect for this style tumbler. So with a clean paper towel with acetone, I'm going to begin by cleaning around the tumbler just to get rid of all of that overspray. And then I'm going to begin getting closer and closer to that area and creating a circular pattern. Now I am going to be distressing this, so we don't want a distinct shape. I'm just going to be cleaning away some of that spray paint and leaving enough space for where I want to apply my decal, but really just trying to rub away that spray paint in an irregular fashion. So I don't want it to be completely circular. I want it to look kind of like the edges were burned, and so that is the look that I'm trying to go for. You can see in the video how I'm using my hands to kind of wipe that spray paint away in a circular motion, just staying on the edge of my tumbler, really trying to avoid that center because I don't want to have the center of this spray paint stained. So once I was happy with the amount of spray paint that was left on my cup, I go ahead and spray 91% alcohol on a paper towel to just kind of clean up any areas that are still foggy, as well as clean up any spray paints that kind of are staining that white part of my cup. So I'm just, again, going in circular motions just to clean off the edge of my spray paint. Then I am literally just going back and forth between acetone and alcohol until I am happy with how this part of my tumbler looks. Okay, so now it is time to cut out our decal, and I am using this beautiful textured adhesive vinyl from Cricut. And as you can see, this vinyl has a lot of texture on it, and I absolutely love it. So this is in the color black, and I'm just applying it to the mat. I decided to go with a simple quote for this tumbler, so we are doing Scale of Dragons with a little dragon cutout, and I thought it would would really just make this tumbler look super cute, kind of like a potion bottle or something like that. So after I've cut it out, we are going to be using the Cricut transfer tape to reverse weed. Basically what that is I removed the transfer sheet, and instead of weeding away the outside of my cutout, I just apply the transfer sheet to the full image that I am going to be weeding out. Here you can see exactly what I mean. Now I'm going to be pulling away the backing and the external piece of adhesive vinyl away from the actual image that I'm going to be putting on the cup. This is really helpful for any designs that may be intricate or any words or cutouts that are very tiny. I like doing this, especially if I feel like my vinyl is a little bit on the tough side to weed. So this is what I do just to make life a little bit easier when I'm working with smaller designs. I am also going to be using the same technique for the words as well. Okay, so now it's time to apply our design onto our tumbler, and this is a really simple design, so there's not a lot to it. I'm gonna just go ahead and center my quote here, or my words, and then I'm just going to apply it by applying pressure to the center of my decal and then smoothing it outwards. So to finish up our little design here, I'm just going to be adding a little dragon just to tie everything in together. And once that is on, I am going to let the design and the vinyl sit on the cup for about 20 to 30 minutes. And then we're going to go ahead and seal that in. You can seal in your design by using a clear sealer, like Krylon clear sealer that I like to use, or you can also use Quick Coat from Counterculture DIY. So now I've whipped up 30 mLs of Counterculture DIY Fast Set, and I'm going to put one coat of this Fast Set over the entire base of my tumbler, and then as a final coat I'm going to be using the Artist Resin by Counterculture DIY. I am absolutely in love with this tumbler, guys. I cannot wait to hear your feedback on this video. This is what the tumbler looks like after it is completely cured. If you love this video, guys, please give this video a big thumbs up. Also, leave me a comment down below of what you thought about this video. And if you are new to my channel, please consider subscribing. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.